Hi there, and welcome to Design Tab. My name is Montague Monroe, and in this tutorial we're going to be covering an introduction to Ruby on Rails. So what is Ruby on Rails? Well, Ruby on Rails is a framework for creating next-generation web applications based on the Ruby language. This basically means that it is an incredibly powerful framework that's based on a fully programming language instead of something like PHP, which is primarily made as a scripting language. For the sake of time, we're not going to be covering installation of Ruby on Rails in this tutorial. If you are interested in getting Ruby on Rails on your operating system, then feel free to check it out on Google. It's well documented. You should be able to find a quick, easy tutorial for whatever operating system you are on. But we're just going to be taking a look at creating a simple first application using Ruby on Rails if you already have it installed on your PC. Okay, so what does Ruby on Rails offer in terms of making web applications? Well, for starters, it offers the Model View Controller convention, which is pretty much standard nowadays in most decent web application frameworks. It also offers us Object Relational Mapping, which basically, in layman's terms, is a very easy way of accessing your databases and using the records inside your databases. And last but not least, definitely but not least, this is probably the main drawing point of Ruby on Rails, is the convention over configuration. This basically means that Ruby on Rails offers a wide variety of conventions that they kind of expect you to use. It is completely optional, you do not have to use the conventions, but if you do use Ruby on Rails conventions while creating your web application, you can get work that would usually take hours and hours done in seconds. It's incredibly powerful, and if you do end up needing to revert back to configuration because the conventions do not suit your particular need, then the option is always there, like in any other language, for you to go in and configure it to be just how you like. Anyway, let's hop straight in and start ourselves a new Ruby on Rails project. So the first thing we're going to do is open up our terminal window, and we're going to want to type in the following. We get Rails, which basically means we want to use the Rails program, the Ruby on Rails program, and we'll type in new, which means we want to create a new project, and after that we can name our project. Mine is going to be First ROR for Ruby on Rails. After we hit enter, the Ruby on Rails program will go in and start creating all of the files we need to create our first Ruby on Rails project. Alright, here we go. So if we take a look here, you can see some of the things that they have created. They've created a lot of files, but I'll just cover the most important for now. First of all, we have our gem file. This is for putting add-ons into your Ruby on Rails project. For instance, if you need some functionality, then instead of coding it from scratch yourself, you can go and see if there is a gem or plugin available for Ruby on Rails and use their logic. Also, we have our assets. This is where your JavaScript style sheets and images go. We also have controllers, views, and models. This is for the MVC. I'll cover that a little bit more shortly. Also, we have our config, routes, database files, public and test suites. Alright, so we're pretty much ready to get started now. So we have our new Ruby on Rails project created. So we're going to cd into there, and then let's open it up in our default text editor. Okay, so here we are. You can see here we have app bin config db lib log public test tmp and vendor. These are the main files inside of our Ruby on Rails project. We also have our gem file down here, as well as a couple of other little things. Ruby on Rails comes with Git pretty much standard because that is used a lot with many developers, and it's kind of just there in case you want to use it. I personally do with all of my projects, and I'd advise you to do the same, but in the end it's up to you. So, without going off on a tangent, the first one we're going to look at is the app folder. Now this is the main one. This is the one where you really kind of build your entire application. We have our assets, which is our images, JavaScripts, and style sheets, our controllers, our helpers. You don't need to worry about this one too much at the moment, nor do you have to worry about the mailers too much at the moment. But we also have our models and our views. So we're going to slowly fill these up, and I'll talk you through how to get them working. But first of all, we need some kind of resource to work with. So let's go back into our terminal and just clear this up for now. So now that we're inside our Ruby on Rails directory, we're going to want to type in Rails, again to use Rails, and then we're going to type in generate. Now Rails generate is very powerful. We can use this to very quickly generate huge amounts of code that we can use as a scaffold to create anything we need inside of our Ruby on Rails project. So for example, I'm going to type in scaffold and I'll say person. So I want to say Rails generate me a scaffold Rails, and I want this scaffold to be called person. What a scaffold does is it will create the people, or it will create the people table inside of your database. It will create a model, it will create the views, and it will create the controller for this person resource we're going to be using inside of our app. Now after person is where we can start putting in a couple of interesting little things. So for instance, I'm going to type in name and press the spacebar, and then I want to type in age and then a double colon with an integer, and then after that I want gender. So what this basically says is, after we've done person, it's gonna take anything we want to put in here and put it inside of our database table. So our person database table is going to have a name, which will be a string. It defaults to string if you don't put in anything, like for example integer. We're going to have name, age, and gender inside of our database. And just by adding them in here, we don't need to worry about going in and messing with the database. We don't need to add any tables manually. We don't need to do anything manually. This is a good example of conventions over configuration. Because we are working within what the conventions are, we don't need to worry about any kind of configuration at this point. Now, to some people that may seem like a little bit magic, and generally encoding magic is not good because you want to know what happens, but this is pretty much fine. It's all working under the hood and everything is configurable, very configurable once you finish. So we're going to hit enter here, and we'll let it create all of our files. Okay, so first you can see it's created a migration. What migrations do is they're files that you can run to edit the database. So basically we're going to run this migration and add the people into our database. It's created us a model, created us a bunch of test things. Here's our views here, our controllers, helpers, and so on. So now that we have that ready and rolling and all of our files up, we're going to want to migrate the database and actually make our changes to the database. So what we're going to type in is rake db migrate, and this will look through our project and find any migrations and run them on the database. So we're going to hit enter here, and you'll see it says create people migrating. It's created the table people, and it's added all of the things for us into there. Alright, so that's all good. Let's clear this and take a look at what it's done under the hood. So here we are inside of our project, and first of all we're going to go into controllers, and you'll see here it's created us a people controller. So this basically says all of the logic to do with the people and what it wants us to do with it. For example, for the index page, we want to display all of the people. So what it says is it says find person.all and make it assigned to the @people variable. Now this little bit here, person.all, basically goes into our models, and it finds person.rb, which was also created when we made our scaffold. Person.rb, the whole point of that is that it will go into our database and find the people table. So if we go back to our controller, it's saying go into the person table, go into the person table of our database and find all the people inside that table and assign it here. Alright, that's all good there. Now, next what happens is once it's assigned it to @people, it goes down to our views, and then it goes to people because it likes to group them all together, people controller, person model, and people views, and it finds the index page, and then what it does is it renders out a table, gives us the head, and then here we go, and it's saying @people, which is the variable that was right here. So these variables that you put into your controller are accessible from your view. So it's saying @people.each, so it's saying for each person inside there, do the following here. And it's saying we want to print out the person's name, the person's age, person's gender, and link to show the person, edit the person, and destroy the person. This is the full CRUD sort of functionality here, and all we did was type one line into our terminal window. So very powerful stuff. So let's go take a look at this now in action. We're going to go to our terminal again, and we're going to type in Rails S. What Rails S does is it boots up a server that came standard with Rails. So whenever you want to have a look at a live snapshot of your website, just type in Rails S and boot up the WebRick server. And then all you need to do is go into your default browser and type in localhost 3000. And here we are. It says, welcome aboard, you are writing Ruby on Rails. And this is our project right here. Now if I want to go in and have a look at my people, all I need to do is type in /people, which is the name of our controller. If you have a good look here, our controllers and people controller, you just type in people. If it was boat controller, you type in boat. Well, it would be boats, because you want multiples. Anyway, let's go in and have a look. So here we go, it says listing people, name, age, gender. We go new person, and we can create a new person right now. We can say Rob is age 21 and is male. And we can create that person, and because we've follow the conventions and we have our model set up to access the database and our controller to deal with all of this logic, we can basically just go straight in and start creating our records right here, and it just works. This is incredibly powerful, and it's all pretty much right at your fingertips with Ruby on Rails. So here's an example of it. So for index, we want to get all the people. For show, we just want to get one, and that's done down here. It says here we go. @person is equal to person.find params ID. And what this basically saying is we want to find the person that has the ID inside the URL. So for example, if I click show, see how it says people 1? Well, what it's going to do is find the person with the 1 as their ID and then pull them up. For new, this is just creating a new person. For edit, it does pretty much the same thing as show, and for create, it is relatively the same. This is going a little bit deeper than I was planning to in the beginning, so rather than go too deep into this, we'll just fall back on the convention over configuration thing, and I'll cover more stuff like that when we have more time in a different tutorial, because I don't want this one to go for too long. Alright, so the last thing I wanted to show you was using the actual, let me just close this down for a second and we'll clear it. as well as looking at your actual website using Rails S, you can directly organize stuff by going through and taking a look in the IRB. So let's have a look here, Rails console. Okay, so once we've typed in Rails C, we are now inside the Ruby on Rails IRB, which just allows us to go through and mess with the code a little. For example, if you remember looking into for our index, it says @people is equal to person.all, right? We could do the exact same thing here. @people is equal to person.all. And then instead of just showing you the output, it will actually show you what it does. It says here, it's loading in and it's saying select people all from people. And that is the query that it's using on the database. And then it's giving you the response here. And it says active record relation, and it's saying we have one person here. And it has person ID 1, and it's Rob, 21, male, and it also gives us the created at and updated at fields. Alright guys, this is about all we have time for at the moment. There is a lot more that we could go into with Ruby on Rails, even for a beginner tutorial. But I'm going to save that for another day so the tutorial doesn't go on for too long. If you guys like Ruby on Rails and you are looking to get more into it, check out some of the tutorials available on NetTuts Plus. There's also a great guide for learning Ruby itself and Rails called Rails for Zombies, I believe. And that will take you through an interactive environment where you can learn to get started with Rails. Alright guys, if you guys are interested in learning more about web design, feel free to come down and check out designtab.me. And I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time.